The judge froze when he saw me. That's the moment everyone remembers. The courtroom had been buzzing in that low, restless way it does before a hearing begins. Papers shuffling, muted coughs, the faint smell of old wood polish and nervous sweat hanging in the air. My palms were damp against the metal railing of the defense table. I kept rubbing my thumb against the edge of my wedding ring, the way I always did when I needed to steady myself. They thought they knew who I was. To them, I was just another defendant. Another middle-aged woman in a wrinkled navy dress. Another name on the docket. Another story already judged before it had even been told. But when the courtroom doors opened behind the bench and the judge stepped in, everything shifted. He looked older than I remembered, more silver in his hair, deeper lines along his mouth. He adjusted his glasses, glanced down at the file, then lifted his eyes. And then he saw me. His hand paused mid-motion. The courtroom clerk cleared her throat softly, confused by the silence. For a long, suspended second, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice no longer neutral. My heart thudded so loudly, I thought the microphone might pick it up. "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. But he wasn't looking at me like a judge looks at a defendant. He was looking at me like a ghost from his past. And nobody, not the prosecutor, not my own lawyer, not even my son sitting stiffly in the back row, understood why.
They didn't know the truth about me. Not yet.
Before all of this, my life was quiet, predictable, gentle, even. I lived in the same two-story brick house my late husband, Thomas, and I bought 32 years ago. The hydrangeas in the front yard still bloomed stubbornly every spring, even when I forgot to trim them properly. The kitchen still carried the faint scent of cinnamon and coffee, because I baked every Sunday morning whether anyone came by or not. After Thomas passed from a sudden heart attack 8 years ago, the house became quieter than I'd ever imagined possible. The ticking clock above the stove sounded louder. The refrigerator hummed like it was trying to fill the silence. But I managed. I had my job at the Community Legal Aid Office. I handled administrative work mostly, intake forms, scheduling, keeping files organized. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. I liked helping people who didn't know where else to turn. I liked the way they'd exhale when someone finally listened. And I had my son, Daniel. Daniel was 34, tall like his father, with that same stubborn crease between his brows when he was concentrating. He worked in real estate, always chasing the next listing, the next commission. Ambitious. Driven. Sometimes too driven. When he married Vanessa 4 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. She was beautiful in a sharp, polished way. Always dressed impeccably, always smiling just a little too perfectly. She called me Mom from the start, which warmed me more than I expected. At first, I believed we were lucky. Sunday dinners became livelier. Vanessa would bring a bottle of wine and compliment my roast chicken. Daniel would talk excitedly about properties he was closing. They'd sit close together on the couch, whispering, laughing. But even then, there were small things I didn't quite understand. Vanessa asked a lot of questions about my house. "How much is it worth now?" she'd say casually, running her manicured fingers along the banister. "Property values in this neighborhood have skyrocketed." Or she'd stand at the kitchen window and say, "It's such a big place for one person, Mom. Must be hard to maintain." I thought she was concerned. Looking back, I realized she was calculating. Still, I brushed the feeling aside. I told myself not to be suspicious. After all, they were family. And when Daniel sat me down one evening, his hands clasped tight, and told me they were having financial difficulties because of a failed investment, I didn't hesitate. "We just need a little time to recover," he said. "It's temporary." Vanessa's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Of course," I told them. "You can move in here. Stay as long as you need." I remember the relief on their faces. I remember thinking I was doing what any mother would do. The first few weeks felt almost comforting. The house was full again. Footsteps on the stairs, music drifting from upstairs, the smell of Vanessa's expensive perfume mixing with my lavender detergent. But slowly things shifted. Vanessa started reorganizing the kitchen without asking. My spice rack disappeared, replaced with matching glass jars. My old curtains were taken down for washing and never returned. Daniel began talking about long-term plans. We could renovate, he suggested one night. Modernize the place. Increase its value. I'm happy with it the way it is, I said gently. Vanessa exchanged a look with him I couldn't quite read. Then the mail started disappearing. Important letters, bank statements, insurance documents would arrive late or not at all. When I asked about it, Vanessa would shrug. Maybe you misplaced them, Mom. It happens. I began to doubt myself. Maybe I was becoming forgetful. Maybe grief and age were finally catching up with me. But one afternoon, I came home early from work and found Vanessa in my bedroom. She was standing near my filing cabinet. Oh, she exclaimed when she saw me. I was just looking for extra blankets. The drawer was slightly open, and in that small, silent space between us, something inside me tightened.
I didn't confront her then.
I wish I had. Because what I didn't realize was that the papers she'd been looking through would soon be used to paint me as something I am not. A fraud, a criminal, an unfit woman incapable of managing her own life. And the worst part? My own son believed it. That's how I ended up in that courtroom. That's how the judge came to freeze when he saw me. But to understand why, you need to know what happened next.